Welcome, Heather Shipley. Thank you for joining us on the Ladies of Law podcast. Let's start by you telling us about how you ended up in law.
It was a very accidental career, never my intention at all. I did a French degree. I had every intention of being some far-flung translator for the UN was my dream. But that obviously didn't happen. After I graduated, I'd got a period of volunteering in Uganda locked in for the coming September. And my mum told me that I needed to go and get a job for when I returned. I didn't think anyone would employ me when I'd already got 3 months blocked out for this volunteering trip. But she found an article in the Birmingham Mail. It was back when job adverts were posted in the newspaper. And she said, "Oh, look, it says you need to have good attention to detail and good mathematical skills." That sounds like you. I thought, okay. It mentioned law, and my sister at the time was, she wanted to go into law. She's a couple of years younger than me, but she was doing her A-levels and things in law. So that was very much what she wanted to do. And I asked her what's a law cost draftsman, and she had no idea. So I went for the interview and I got the job, and they held the post for me to start once I returned from Uganda. And 15 years on, I'm still here. So very accidentally, but great. Love it.
Okay, so you mentioned there that you're a law cost draftsman. Tell us a little bit more about that and what your role involves.
Okay, so in short, a law cost draftsman, we negotiate solicitors' costs. But what we do, we specialise in legal aid. So we help our solicitors get their payment from the legal aid agency for the work that they do. Now, the work that they do is largely care proceedings, contact disputes, domestic abuse cases, right up to housing, judicial review, court of protection matters. We just help prepare their bills and get them paid.
It's quite a specialist area, really, isn't it? And what do you think are the most important skills to being a cost draftsman? I'm just wondering for anybody who's watching this, I think it is another profession that a lot of people might not know exists. But tell us what you
Yeah,
think
I
would
think
make it great.
it's definitely an industry that it's a career in the legal sphere that a lot of lawyers don't know exists, because if you don't work in kind of a litigation style solicitor role, you won't have the need for a cost draftsman or a cost lawyer. Um, from a skills perspective, I think you've just got to be versatile and, maths, grammar, attention to detail is all, good attributes to have too. But I think every case is different. Every day is a different day.
Yeah.
And so it's just being able to apply your knowledge in a versatile way to each and every case, because there's no one size fits all approach.
Yeah, I think I'd really like to explore this a little bit more with you because we were talking previously, and I know from cost experience, I think there are also things called high cost cases. Can you tell us about those and when they come into play?
So high cost cases are complex cases where the costs are expected to be over £25,000. And the way that they work is the solicitors have to get prior approval of their costs before they're incurred from the legal aid agency. So we help to, in essence, budget and estimate their future work, get that approval, perhaps negotiate on those costs with the legal aid agency. And then prepare their claims once the costs have been agreed and once that stage of proceedings has happened. So they are the most complex cases, often the ones where you've got leading counsel, so silk, as a lot of people will know them as.
Yeah.
And multitude of expert evidence, and you're really kind of hard hitting cases a lot of the time as well are those that become high costs. But they're the ones that I think, as a draftsman, and I've naturally niched into high cost work. It's the ones where I feel like I can add the most value. because they are the ones with the deadlines and the ones where you have to be really on it. And the solicitors also working really, really hard to progress these cases through the courts and for their clients, and to then know that we can just take the cost side of things and support them with that while they carry on doing, the really nitty gritty work on the case. And we then support them with making sure that those costs are going to get paid.
I would imagine that is quite a skilled task to do that alongside your lawyers essentially. And I can imagine that for a case to become essentially high costs, it's probably a case that is life changing for the individuals that are actually involved in it. So would you say it's rewarding at the same time to kind of be on that journey with your clients
Yeah.
with the
I think it is when we first take on a high cost case, because it is during the case, it's not concluded at that point. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. I do most of my high cost cases are care cases, so we don't know what the ultimate final orders are going to be made, whether the children are going to be adopted or whether they're going to be, returned to their. Perhaps the client might be the parent, one of the parents. We don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, it's very much a journey that we are on with the solicitors as well. And these solicitors work so hard to represent the most vulnerable people in society a lot of the time. And yeah, it is rewarding. And it's so nice to work closely alongside the solicitor as well. And kind of, especially we're predicting the future work, we having to liaise with the solicitor and kind of brainstorm a little bit as to what we expect to take place. And that's what I like the most about high cost work, is being involved in it in a way that so many people don't realise we're involved in it. The client doesn't know we're involved in that respect, but to know that we're kind of helping them in a roundabout way is quite nice.
I love that. I think I can imagine that being true for a lot of people that are involved in drafting high cost cases. So moving into a slightly different direction now then. So we've known each other for quite a long time. And one of my absolutely favorite things about you is how incredibly efficient you are in your personal life, but also your professional life. And I think it would be really interesting to hear a little bit about that and where it all came from.
I've always been a person who can't sit still. Um, and I think I'm a working mom. I've got two young children, primary school age, who are busy children. They do a lot of sports. And I guess just life is always so busy that I've just had to be more efficient over time as the years have gone on. Um, in Yeah, every minute I will fill. So the kids are getting their shoes on to go to school. I'm emptying the dishwasher because there's the value in me standing and watching them put their shoes on. um, we had a conversation many, many years ago, which was kind of, I would say, a pivotal point in my career, uh, in terms of the efficiency side and the involvement that I then had with my previous company. I was on holiday and I saw a lady. So the hotel we were in were giving out popcorn to the children. Um, there was some kind of celebration thing for Easter on the beach, and I stood in this queue, and this queue was getting longer and longer and longer. And her method for making the popcorn was so inefficient, and I couldn't help but get frustrated. And I just wanted to go over and help her. Well, I didn't, obviously, but um, we had then had a conversation off the back of that, and I told you the popcorn story, and it stuck in my head because then I realised, oh, I do things quite a lot differently to other people. And from then on, I then started to become involved with efficiency training for some of my colleagues, and I then became in turn more efficient when I started to really, really hone in and pinpoint where I was efficient and then where I wasn't efficient, and then sharing that kind of knowledge with other people and learning their own efficient ways of working. Then it's all just kind of come to a head. And that's just my favourite thing to do, is if I can do it quicker whilst not obviously losing any detail or anything like that. There's always a way to do something quicker. And there's no one size fits all approach either. So what works for me might not work for other people. Um, but yeah, I'm just an efficient person. Can't sit still. Never have
I
been
love
able
that
to.
so much. I think one of my favorite things is I once read that if you can make a 1% improvement every day, the snowball effect of that is extraordinary. And I think that's something that I try and do. And I know we've had many conversations over the years about it, but I'd love to talk a little bit more about some of the things that you've done. I mean, we were together when we put together like a little efficiency curriculum for former colleagues, and I think that was such a fantastic thing to be able to do. And really, for me, that was just about sharing knowledge, information, ideas from lots of different places, with your kind of help coordinating all of that. Can you tell us a little bit about that and about your maybe some of your tips for the things that you do to make yourself more efficient? And feel free to tell us personally as well as professionally.
Well, I'm a big fan of time blocking, and it seems really, really simple. But we'll all make a list. We'll all write a to-do list. But I think the biggest thing for me is time blocking in really small chunks of time. So
Yeah.
even like not even an hour, sometimes 15-minute chunks. There's actually something called the Pomodoro technique, which Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato. And the idea is that you you attribute time to a tomato, or half a tomato, or a quarter of tomato. A tomato is an hour. Um, Sounds
Okay.
ridiculous. I was saying it out loud, it makes so much sense written down. But the idea is that you time block. So it may be that, well, this one task is going to take 2 tomatoes, or this task is going to take half a tomato. But then what you can then do is if you know it should only take you half an hour or half a tomato, but it takes you longer, you can then review why it took longer and what it
Ah,
was that you did differently, and it can work the other way as well. You think, oh, I allowed myself an hour on that, but I've actually managed to do it in 40 minutes. So, or 3 pomodoros. So no, 3/4 of a pomodoro. So, why did I manage to do that quicker? Was it because I wasn't distracted? Was it because I had used some technology tips? So that's a big thing for me, is time blocking.
yeah.
And I've always, since I've had my children, I've worked a full-time caseload in part-time hours, because I do the school pickup and drop off every single day. So I only have really 6 hours in a day, to be able to do all of my work. Um, and 6 hours flies by.
Yeah.
So I have to time block. I can't lose a minute anywhere, because otherwise it just all goes to pot. So yeah, that's been the biggest thing for me. And I'm not very technologically able, sadly. But a lot of the things that we learn during that efficiency curriculum for our colleagues was I learnt a lot too. And I
Yeah.
think it's being open sometimes to, yes, you might have done this way for 10 years, but it doesn't necessarily mean just because it's quick for you doesn't mean that you might have to take a step backwards to be able to
Yeah.
go forwards in terms of your efficiencies. But if you sometimes just being open to what the other people's approaches to things, and adopting those approaches as well. So yeah, quite a lot of technological tips that I've learned over the years as well have massively improved my speed, whilst not compromising on kind of the standard, I suppose. And that's the thing. It's about not not necessarily cutting. It's about cutting corners, but without cutting the quality. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
working smarter, not harder, in my opinion.
absolutely.
I think that's
Yeah,
definitely
and yeah,
we
and
all
I'm
have
a
to be
big
doing.
believer of like plan, do, review in every aspect of life. Um, you plan it, you do it. If it works, great. But you can probably, even if it does work, you can probably still do it better. Um, so review it, whether it's to speed things up, whether it's to do something better, whether it's to slow it down. Plan, do, review is a big motto of mine in every aspect of my life.
Love that. Thank you for the tips. That's so so let's talk now then about the position that you're in at the moment. So tell us what you're doing now, Heather.
So I am now managing director of Heathwells legal costs. So yeah, very, very exciting.
Love that so much. For anybody who doesn't know, Heather and I now work together, so this is a really exciting moment for us. Um, So, what I'd also like to know from you, Heather, is you are not only the managing director of Heathwells, you have also become an ambassador for Ladies of Law, which is absolutely fantastic. We're so fortunate to have this amazing army of ambassadors who are incredibly supportive of everything that we do. I'd really like to know from your side, being our first ambassador to come on the podcast, what's it like your side? What's your experience of being ambassador? And have you got anything coming up that you might want to talk about?
I think what's so nice is to see people from all walks of life in a manner of different professions within the legal sphere coming together, and the things that Ladies of Law, you've posted recently on the socials about like a yoga session, and I just
Yeah.
so to have those things available to this group of ladies, and I'm all for championing. Start again. I'm all for championing women having a career. And I'm very fortunate to have a supportive husband at home and kids that get that mummy works. But I've always been about women being able to really just go out and get it. And
Have it
so
all.
to have this, yeah, to have this kind of network of ladies of law that support that is massive. And then to be able to champion the costs world, a world that even a lot of, legal professionals don't really know exists, and champion it as a viable career opportunity. But yeah, in a few weeks' time, we're at the University of Law.
Yes.
And I'm so excited to be kind of talking there about my journey into the legal world, albeit very unintended. And I'm actually going to be speaking alongside my sister, who is she wanted to come into the legal world, and she's a solicitor, and she's doing very well with her career. So to kind of speak alongside her as to kind of how we both kind of came into it, and then now we're both in some ways working alongside each other again, which was never intentional for us when we were growing up. I thought I was going to go off and live in France, and she was going to stay and work in law. So yeah, it's quite nice to be doing that with her too.
That's going to be such an interesting journey to hear at the Birmingham event. So anybody looking to if the tickets are still available, definitely want to come and watch. So we now have a couple of questions that we ask on the podcast for every guest. So first one is, what one piece of advice would you go back in time and tell your younger self?
This is quite a heartfelt one for me. It's having confidence in your ability, not necessarily
Yeah.
your knowledge, but in your ability and I guess, recognizing the parts of your personality and your strengths, but also recognizing your weaknesses. And if somebody tells you that you're doing a damn good job, take note of that, because I'm not very good at that. I'm my own worst critic. In the whole plan, do, review stage of everything I do, I can be quite negative about myself. And so I just want to read you out a message that somebody messaged me yesterday. Yesterday was my first proper day with Heathwells. So bit of a promotion in my career, so to speak. And um, to have the support of people around you that you've worked alongside with, but they recognise things about you that you don't know, that you don't trust yourself. You'd never say, I'm really good at what I do. You just wouldn't ever say that about yourself. But actually, I think we should be doing more of that as women, especially. I think we need to be really, really championing ourselves, because if you want something, you've got to go out and get it for yourself. So this message said, "Happy first day, my love. The time has finally come. I'm so super proud of you for making this happen, and I know you're going to be amazing. Remember how confident, talented, and capable you are. You're amazing and 100% deserve this." And
Oh,
I brought a tear to my eye, because that's from someone who I've worked alongside with for years, and who I'm now very lucky to call a friend. And I think sometimes you just need that. So yeah, just be confident in what you know. Yeah.
yeah. I love that so much, and what a beautiful thing. I think you should keep that. I think you should print it out,
Hang
frame it, put it on your wall somewhere, because
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I've talked on the podcast before about, the standards that we set for ourselves versus the standards that we set for other people, and we don't stop and go, "Do you know what? I did a really great thing there." Really, me personally as well, I tend to focus on, "Oh, I need to do that better. I need to do this better." And I can sometimes snowball and spiral out of control. Whereas actually, you've probably done, 100 amazing things in that day, and none of those get a
Yeah.
look and they go completely out the window. So I completely resonate with exactly what you've just said.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've had to learn over the last couple of years is that you can't pour from an empty cup, and especially as working moms, like, you'll appreciate this as well, like, you want to give 100% to everything, but that's not always possible, and there's gonna be some days where something feels like it goes to pot, and that's okay. And you've just got to remember to take time for yourself, because if you're only running half empty, you're never going to be able to give 100% to anything.
Yeah,
So we're all having to juggle so many different roles, and we wear so many hats as working moms in particular, but even just women with high flying careers. There's always so much to manage, and just making sure you take time for yourself as well is something that I wish I'd have kind of had ingrained in me. And almost when I'm time blocking my day or my week, setting some time aside for me, because I've never
yeah,
been very good at that, and I've had to start being good at it because otherwise the weeks fly by and you wonder why you're stressed at the end of them. And it's
yeah.
because you've put everybody else before yourself.
So you've learnt to time block for personal life as well. I love that. You've
Yeah,
taken
I do.
time blocking to the next level.
Pilates on a Monday morning is a non-negotiable for me now, and I've
Beautiful.
never been into exercise, but just that it helps kickstart my week in the right way.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah,
love that. So, last question for you, Heather Shipley. Who should we interview on the pod and why?
I would absolutely love for you to chat to my sister, Kirsty.
Oh,
And she'll say the same about me. Like, it's funny when we write birthday cards to each other, it's always, "You are my biggest inspiration."
oh my gosh, I
She is
love
mine and I'm
that.
hers. And yeah, we're she's she also suffers a lot with this, putting herself last and lack of confidence at times, and not
Yeah.
realizing how incredible she is as a person. Um, she does so much work for charity. Um, she's a trustee for Birmingham Children's Hospital, and she climbed Kilimanjaro last year for them. And this year she's doing some hike around Morocco or something. I can't keep up, to be honest with her. And she's just an incredible human. And I would love for you to kind of, I guess, speak about her experience in the legal world, and all that kind of other stuff that she's doing on the side of it too. Yeah.
Okay, so there we go, Kirsty, I'm coming for you. Amazing. Okay. Well, honestly, thank you so much, Heather. The time has completely flown by. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and
Thank
I
you.
wish you all the very best in your new role as MD.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.